It's always a joy to be with you, Amy Weintraub. And those of you who don't know who she is, I've known Amy for, it might be close to 40 years, maybe it's 30 years, but it's a long time, a long, long time. And one of the very cool things about Amy is that she was a real pioneer. She led the whole yoga world into exploring how yoga can affect our moods, our anxiety and depression. I've trained with Amy. I've learned so much from her in addition to everything else I've learned, but Amy has this particular focus. And if you're looking for ways to really balance your moods, as Amy has said, then she's the one to train with. She also has a card deck. I think you'll talk about that at some point. So Amy wrote the first article about yoga and depression in Yoga Journal in 1999. That's how long Amy's been doing this work. The article was called Yoga, the Natural Prozac. Also, the first book on yoga for depression called Yoga for Depression. And then a book called Yoga Skills for Therapists, which is really helping therapists learn how to put yoga and the practices of yoga into action. And so we'll also take a look at the mood deck, Yoga for Your Mood deck, which is the card deck. So that will go back. Do you have it right there right now? Amy just showed
I
them.
do. Beautiful. Look at
I
the
have this too, and I think
yeah.
it's fabulous. So
Well, I want to honor the illustrator. She just did. I'll show a couple other cards as we do maybe some practices. But look at that. Isn't she beautiful, this
I have to
image?
agree.
So Sounds True did a great job. I loved working with them and my editor at Sounds True. And she found this illustrator in the UK. And they're beautiful. Juliet Percival is the illustrator.
So, Amy, as you've been really studying this for years and teaching people, what do you think are the main things that people come to you and say, I need help with?
Well, currently, I think the worry and anxious feelings about our world and that get internalized as anxiety and depression. But before I just jump into that, I want to thank you, Deirdre, for inviting me, but also for all the work you've been doing and how much I've learned from you. It's a mutual kind of exchange of ideas and learning. So thank you for that.
Always when it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, what I'm seeing are the internalization of fear, so much fear in the world that shows up sometimes as anger, especially in men, and as depression, especially in women. And it's really been helpful when I'm working with people in groups, which is what I'm mostly doing right now, is to really bring them to a place which yoga can do. Yoga practices, and I don't mean asana and posture, but some of the things that are applicable in clinical settings and home settings and yoga therapy settings, to bring them to a place of who they truly are, their wholeness, beneath the fear. So the fear is the story. And so getting to you, that's what I'm seeing mostly, a lot of fear uh, and and people responding really well to getting more in touch with what sources them
That's lovely.
through these practices. Yeah.
When you think about that, what practice do you notice has been, I don't want to say most helpful, like there's only one you need to do, but it's
Well,
like an
I
entry
can.
point.
So let me start by saying that the research shows that breathing practices are most important for sort of accessing that sense of well-being beneath the story and the mood. And I wrote a chapter in a book for professionals with one of the lead researchers in the field, Helger Kramer, and that's basically, having done a survey of all the literature, it's the breathing practices. Um, so then I would say, because people have difficulty, if they have a lot of anxiety, if they have had trauma, they're often upper chest breathers because often during trauma, the psoas tightens, it affects the diaphragm, so they really can't get a deep breath. So when you say to someone, take a deep breath or watch your breath, it can actually trigger more anxiety. And so over the years, having made some therapeutic mistakes with people, trying to help them, as we as yoga teachers are taught, breathe to the bottom of your lungs, which can either result in emotional flooding because they're suddenly able to do it, and everything they've been tamping down just sort of surfaces like a fountain of emotion that can be scary, especially in a first session with someone, or they can't do it at all and they immediately feel not good enough. So what we have done is taken a practice called Analoma and Viloma Krama and renamed it so that it's more accessible as stair-step breath. And it is, I think, a wonderful entry point because it meets that upper chest breath, first of all. So it's, do you want me to demonstrate?
Yeah, let's do it for sure.
Okay. So it's imagining, and we don't even use words like breath or we don't count. We use imagery because some people, the minute you start talking about pranayama or breathing or inhaling or exhaling or holding the breath, they go into a kind of freeze, like, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. And so we talk about imagining little steps as though you're climbing a mountain through the nostrils, and then slide down the mountain through the nostrils. And we may start just that way, and then we may add just a little retention at the top without saying that. We might say, see something beautiful, and then slide down the mountain. So that little steps meets that upper chest breathing. And then there are several other portions to it. We'll just do that part for right now because there are portions that actually pump the belly a little bit, which is wonderful for depression. But let's just start with the first part. So you can, if you wish, you can allow your eyes to soften or close and maybe bring into your heart's mind a beautiful scene, just something that evokes peace, that's soothing and serene. And if nothing arises, then perhaps just think the word peace. And the image can change as we do this, so it may be different each time we do it. Now we're going to take little steps as though you're climbing a mountain through the nostrils. And when you get to the top, at your own pace, slide down the mountain. And again, we'll take little steps through the nostrils. Maybe see something beautiful that's seen in your heart's mind on your way up the mountain. When you get to the top, see something beautiful and slide down the mountain. And again, little steps as though you're climbing a mountain. And at your own pace, when you get to the top, see something that lights you up inside and slide down the mountain. And allow your own natural breath to find you again, that sweet rhythm of breath. And as you're ready, you can allow your eyes to flutter open.
So sweet, so
Yeah.
simple, so sweet. I can feel, I didn't feel stressed before, but it feels even more relaxed, more open, more spacious.
Yeah. The other thing, when someone is really revved up, like agitated, and, we might call it anxiety, we might call it whatever we call it, but it's a revved up state. in yoga, it would be called a rajasic state, kind of hyper aroused. And there's really not an access point to calm down. So what we do is meet that agitation. And stair step is one way to do it, but if someone's really agitated, we might have them get up and move. So we might do something like, let's see, this one is the power hara, and on the other side are the instructions. And the thing that's, we can do it together. You can do it if you have an armless chair, you can do it in the chair, or you can stand up and do it. The thing that's important about a practice like this, that I think is just as important as doing this, is what's on the back, which is the closing, which is directing awareness, like a mini body scan, so that it grounds that person. So, when I leave this, say, with someone or in a group, I'll say, how do you feel? And you'd think they would feel revved up and, energetic because they've just done this sort of practice that is what we call kind of a Brahmana practice, an energizing practice. But if you do the body scan afterwards to really ground them, and then a grounding breath, like inhale from feet to crown, I am, exhale to your feet here, then they when I ask them how they feel, they say things like calm, alert, but soothed, grounded, not like revved up or anxious. So it's really interesting that we do a lot of the cards that are in the red part of the deck meet that anxiety, and then they always include that directing awareness, body sensing, and the grounding breath. So if you're seated, the grounding breath would be inhale from seat to crown, I am, exhale to your seat here, grounded. And if you're standing, it would be inhale from feet to crown. Now I'm going to try standing. I'm in a new location, so I don't know if this is going to work so much, but so I'm standing, but you can do it seated. And you can't see the,
okay.
Yeah. So we're going to do, it's called the power hara, or in the deck, it's called the power breath, because I kind of make it more accessible. So power breath. So we're going to be inhaling in one direction, inhaling in the other, exhale, crossing the body, exhale, crossing the body. Now we're going to use the sound ha, but we can also, in Life Force Yoga, we have all these wonderful chakra tones, and in yoga in general. So Ram for the solar plexus, self-esteem, power, identity. So we can use Ram as we do it. So again, it's a 2-part inhalation and a 2-part exhalation. So hands are on the shoulders, and we're going to go inhale, inhale, ha, ha. Inhale, inhale, ha,
Ah,
ha,
ah,
inhale,
feels so
inhale,
good.
ha, ha. Let's change it to Ram. Rum,
Rum,
rum.
rum,
Inhale, inhale, rum,
rum,
rum.
rum,
Inhale, inhale, rum, rum. One last time. Rum, rum. And then allow your eyes to soften or close and sense the energy shimmering in your face, perhaps left side of your face, right side of your face, the whole left arm, vibrant with energy, all the way down to the palm of your hand, perhaps a tingling in the palm and the fingertips. Inhale from the fingertips of your left hand all the way up to the crown, sensing the whole left side. Exhaling down through the right side of the face, arm, palm, fingertips. Inhaling up through the right fingertips, all the way to the crown, sensing Exhale down to the left, sensing. This is your birthright, this energy. We don't create it. We remove the constrictions, the obstacles, so that we feel our own life force, our own energy. In this moment, a window through whatever mood is visiting. Inhale from seat to crown, I am. Exhale to your seat, here, grounded, ready. And if you're standing, inhale from feet to crown, I am. Exhale to your feet, here, ready, grounded, stable. And as you're ready, allow your eyes to flutter open.
So good. And what a great thing, even for therapists to do between sessions.
Oh, yeah. And clearing the space. I mean, there's so many, there's bellows breath, Bastrika, to clear the space, to release. And the thing is, in doing those red cards, it's important, I think, to take time to ground and to do the body scan so you feel more balanced. You're not overstimulating yourself or someone else. The thing about therapists is that if they can begin to introduce some of these practices in their clinical work, it really adds to the therapeutic bond there. There's that sense of connection. You're doing something together. The therapist should just keep her eyes open, or their eyes open, because you don't want your client sitting there like, oh, she's like in her bliss and I'm sitting here and this is stupid. So you need to really monitor, you need to watch the chest and see where the breath is going, all that stuff. But you're doing something together, and then they have a tool so that in the middle, between sessions, they can make use of that tool rather than just pick up the phone or text you for support. They can do something for themselves. They have tools. It's very empowering. And so a lot of psychotherapists do attend the workshops that we do and the training so that they can integrate these practices into their clinical work.
I'm thinking too, Amy, that how important it is if we think about human development and the attachment, is that if I'm doing it with you, then somehow it mitigates the anxiety of it. And I love how you said for the therapist not to be in their bliss and just spacing out and not connected, because the whole point is to stay connected so that the other person actually uses the field that we're creating and the modeling to be able to dip into themselves. And even if they can't do it very well, like even if they space out through it, they can come back and keep relearning it moment to moment.
Yeah. And I think that's why the second part of the piece, the coming back into the body, the physical sensations, not a global sense. I never say, and I caution therapists and yoga professionals to not say, as we've been taught in yoga trainings, sense the feelings in your body. That's just way too global, and it can cause agitation. So it's very specific to the sensations in the palms, the fingertips. In that way, you're bringing someone back into their body, back into reality, even if they've dissociated and they're somewhere else, and that's been their modus operandi for their lifetime. Then they've just sort of gone out of body. You're bringing them back, and you're giving them a tool that can control, that they have the efficacy to control those states so that they don't get taken out. Do you know what I mean? Am I making sense?
Exactly. It develops agency and connection. And I love also how you say don't make it global, because people, if they're not used to being in their body, or even if we're intellectually aware, so many of us haven't learned how to attune inside. So to make it specific and to keep it to the extremities, which is often where the threat system is activated, so then we can learn how to pull that energy in and land more internally.
Exactly. And I love that you say keep it to the extremities. That's also important because someone who's had a history of trauma, if you immediately go to notice your belly and it can feel too invasive too. And so keeping it to, and there's more sensations, the homunculus, there's more sensation in the palms, the fingers, the face. And if you're leading it and you've done it, you can feel where the sensation is. You feel it yourself. And those are the cue points for you and your client. So what we do with people who are upper chest breathers and, have a lot of anxiety and family or, have histories of trauma is we always ground it, and we go from those more energizing practices that meet that revved up state to those more to the grounding. And then we introduce from the card deck, we might introduce a blue card where we're doing a practice that is calming, um, specifically calming. And if someone presents with a sort of depressed demeanor, we might start with a blue card to meet them where they are. So we're not overstimulating and making them feel uncomfortable, and then move to a practice that's more energizing.
This is
And
one of the things I think you do so splendidly and importantly is because there's a way in yoga, those people have trained in it for a while, where it's like you follow the teacher and you do what the teacher says. But what you have brought in is like meet the mood. I love that. So that if somebody's in a depressed place or an anxious place, rather than telling them where you think they should be, you listen to them, attune to them, which is one of the great principles of attachment theory. You're attuning to them and then helping to use your own body to guide and lead where it might be helpful for them to go. So that's not jumping over or trying to force somebody into a box of who they should be.
Exactly, exactly. It's really about attunement. And that's where the love in the room blossoms, when you're attuned and you're so yes, and the thing about the deck is that people can use these, they can wake up in the morning and say, I can't even get out of bed. And so they pull like a blue card and do something right in bed. And then they say, okay, I'm breathing a little. I can roll over and I have to take care of my bio needs. Maybe on the way back, I'll do that thing from the card deck, which we just did like this one, or pull prana, or, something else before they get back into bed. And then maybe they don't get back into bed. So it's like it's all about empowerment. And, I think when I'm doing workshops and trainings with a lot of mental health professionals, sometimes, professionals often say, I want you to, or I'd like you to. And that sort of uses the transference to help, and I really encourage language that is like, allow your eyes to flutter open, or allow your eyes to soften or close, so that you're giving agency to the client, and you're not necessarily directing them like, I want you to. It's like, it's a language of invitation. And I mean, there are times when you might want to say, I'd like you to, just using that transference to that relationship. But there's also times when you just really want to empower that person to take agency in their lives, and watching the language that you use to introduce these practices is, or to move from the practice into talking talk therapy is I think it's important to kind of watch how you speak it, how you language it.
I love it, Amy. As you know, having trained with you and known you for what now it feels like forever. But for those of you who'd like to do some training with Amy, I just want to highlight a couple things that are coming up July 2nd through the 7th. Amy's going to be teaching at Corpolo, and she's working there with Joanne Spencer, who wrote another great book, Trauma Informed Yoga. So that's very helpful that the two of them will be together. And in July, at the end of July, July 31st to August 4th, Amy's going to be at the Cape Cod Institute with, and it'll be more focused on IFS and working with parts. Is that right?
Yeah, it's IFS and yoga, how to work with parts that may have not yet been unburdened, asking the part if it wants a practice to take home, that kind of thing, how to integrate some of these practices. And a lot of them are so simple. They're just like mudras that make
Yeah.
a shift in our energy. Very simple. Yeah.
Right. It's so incredibly important. So if you can, make sure you get there. If not, get your own yoga deck and use it. Just practice a little bit at a time so that you're comfortable with it, and then introduce it to your clients and see how that is. And definitely want to hear how the practices go. So post a comment below and we will do whatever we can to keep making yoga more accessible to you. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you so much, Deirdre. It's been such a pleasure to see you. And,
Always
I
a
love
joy.
you. So
Love
it's
you too,
great.
sweetie.